thinking. All right, so we're live on that. Let me click on this over here and go live on that. And I need you to connect. I'm still here.
Me too.
Like, it's thinking. All right, so we want to there we go. Oh, no, you weren't supposed to do that. Okay. That is not letting me change that. So I think we're going to have to create a new one, which makes me really frustrated because it's still not. I'm supposed to be able to change the setting once I'm in there. And it's not doing it. Okay, so we're going to exit out of that, end that. Yep, I want to do that. Go. So frustrating.
I feel you. At least you're gonna learn all of it right now. Next time.
Yeah. I just hate that it's so complicated from one, like, everything tells you, it's going to be easy to navigate through and
Yeah.
no problem. And I'm like, this is, I think once you learn it, sure. No, go back here.
I think it's working. I mean, I can't be 100% sure, but I'm like looking at the YouTube on my phone and I can see you and me.
We're there.
I think so.
Okay. Well, then we got it figured out. Okay, so on my computer, I can leave the recording portion of it. So I can stay in the chat and see that active. But yeah. So now we'll now that we've got that. I'm so sorry.
I've got some posses, so I'm gonna ask them if it's working. Okay. We're gonna go with it. Just gonna go with it.
We're there.
I know.
All right. So my biggest thing with starting this was trying to figure out how to like introduce everything. I wanted to be able to go live so that way guests had that option to be able to have their family, friends, whoever watch it in real time, and then that way if later on they wanted to go back and see it, it will save everything and you can still see it later.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
But okay. All right. Well, welcome to A Plot to Be Desired. the
I'm
podcast
excited.
for indie authors. I'm glad to have you here. I hope you're excited to be here.
I am also nervous, but that's okay. We'll just wipe the sweat right from our brow.
You know, it's a thing. I'm a little hot, but we'll make it through.
Yeah.
So, you said that in your bio you were saying how you graduated with a bachelor's in psychology,
Yes,
the University of Arkansas, but you have been writing for some time, right?
I have. Yes. I started when I was 12 and I've just kept going.
So is the current work in progress, is that an old book?
It is. It's funny when I think back to how this book started. I started this, I think, gosh, what? I must have been 15 when I started it. And this was like early high school. I had to get up at the crack of dawn for basketball practice. And so I'd be up at like 4:30 and I had nothing to do for about an hour. So I would just start writing. And so I'm like writing in the dark. I started it off as like a horror story, to be honest. And then I like morphed it into like some weird Chronicles of Narnia type, like, oh, we go through some portal into a new land. And after I grew up and became a little bit more versed in how the world works,
Yeah.
it became what it is now. So no horror Chronicles of Narnia, but some of the characters survived into this next draft.
Well, I cannot tell you how much I have enjoyed reading it. So I'm excited to get to talk a little bit about that and your experience through the whole process, just going back through and, editing it into what it is as the adult version versus your younger self, but also the struggles that you've gone through the whole process. Um, and, doing this now versus, when you were younger, you have kids now, you have a job, you have, a life. So
Yeah.
really kind of balancing those things out so you can make time to do the editing and the writing. Um, so we're going to do some rapid fire questions really quick just to kind of, ease the tension.
Let's do it.
So, you a plotter, a pantser, or a chaos goblin? Kind of a mix of
Can I
both.
be all three? My book probably says no. I try really hard to be a plotter. I will plot my book. I at least know 100% where it's going, and
Yeah.
what needs to happen to get my characters into like their arc. Um,
Yeah.
but my characters are chaos goblins. So next thing you know, I have a random chapter with beetles swarming my characters, and that was not in the plot or anything. I'm just like, we're doing this because I am also a pantser at the same time, so I just kind of
Yeah.
go off the wall, and then I have to find my way back, which it's okay. I don't mind. It's fun. There's lots of squirmishy moments in there that make magic when you pants a little bit.
Yeah, no. So that was one thing that I really enjoyed reading it was every time I thought I knew where things were going, something, pops up and changes. And so I enjoyed that part of the book and the creativity in, keeping readers on their toes and
Mhm.
thinking that, they think they've predicted what it's going to turn out to be, and then it doesn't go that way at all. So, um, what would you say your most overused word in your draft is?
Um, I did a word search, and of course, I guess if we cut out like the pronouns and all of the things that you kind of have to use in your book, I used the word gaze about 124 times, which I know isn't that much when you have like 115,000 words. But when I was looking at it, I was like, this word is now starting to annoy me. So that's probably one. I do have some colorful words in there, that I
Yeah.
probably use, but it fits my character, so they have to be in there. And then, of course, your filler words, like just. Unfortunately, that was
Yeah.
one of my super fun words that I just had to keep using.
Well, I have a grandmother who loves reading, and she read a book recently that I gave to her, and she did was not a fan, of her favorite word, which is the F word, being used over and over again. Yours does not do it that bad. So, it's very
Wait until
tasteful.
book 2. Wait until book 2.
Hey, you just start to ease us into it, right? Like, it's just a slow process of ease.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so this is a fun one. How many tabs do you currently have open on your computer?
I have on my computer, it's not so bad, because I go back and forth between writing and work, so I have to close out tabs. So I have maybe like 15
Yeah.
tabs on my computer and 90 on my phone. Book
Okay.
related too.
I will say, I thought I was bad because I'm
Yeah.
constantly going through and searching, but I think my phone automatically closes out tabs if I haven't used them in so many hours. So, it's probably way more than that if it didn't have that on there. So, but yeah, no, I I love hearing what authors are researching for their books. I think it's fun and it's silly. So, um, whenever I get on TikTok and I'm trying to post content to get things for episodes that I plan on doing, it's very it's very difficult to get people to engage, I feel
Yeah.
like, on TikTok, where they're actually commenting and responding to the posts that you make. So, um, having the community built is
Mhm.
super important. I have had so many friends that have helped me on there with it, but, it kinda all just ends up being an interesting area of writing
Yeah.
because and planning things because you've got all of this stuff on your devices that you're looking
Yeah.
up all the time. But so tell me about your writing style, um, and just a little bit more into the detail of your journey. What made you go back to wanting to actually go through with writing these books and publishing them?
Yeah. So this is kind of one of those stories that has lived rent free even after I took a break because I did take a break with my writing when I went through college and kids and just trying to figure out life. Adulthood is not as fun as being a kid when you can just sit at home and write a book and it's like you just do it because you're
Yeah,
bored. You can't be bored as an adult. You don't get the time to be bored. So I did take a long break, but it was a story that kind of stuck with me where it was constantly like turning the wheels of if I was just sitting at in like my son's room trying to put him to bed, like it would just keep going, like these different scenes that would be amazing to tell in a book. Um, so that's kind of why I like stuck with this one for so long and just how at some point you just have to get it out. Even if you word vomit it onto a page, which I am not a word vomiter. I know some people are like, you know what, get it on the page. And I am just like this meticulous, like I will get what I can out. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to reread it. Which is probably why it also took me 15 years because I can't stop myself from like cycling through it because it keeps
yeah,
me on point and I'm less likely to fall into like the plot holes, because those are so frustrating. Like they still happen, right? When you write, especially when you write so much, but I would hate to get to the very point where I have to edit it and then figure it all out once I've thrown things together versus I'm just like keeping it all like on point and on track. So that's kind of what my writing style is like very annoyingly editorial.
No. Yeah, I think that's good though. I personally am chaotic when it comes to writing.
Okay.
I think of random scenes that I want to insert into my book, but no idea when, where, or how it's going to happen. It just comes to my brain. I type it up or I write it down, and that's
Yeah.
it. And then
Yeah, I
I'll
do that sometimes. Like the scene will pop in my head, but it's like a scene for book 4 versus a scene for book 1. So I have to
yeah.
write it, of course, or at least just like plot it down.
Hmm.
And then I know it's like I need that scene. So at least since it's for book 4, I know I have time to build up to it and I can fit it in somewhere. Or even if the scene doesn't make it, it gives me an idea of like, well, that's still kind of like the general idea of where I want to go.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're currently finished with book 1, which
Yeah.
is, I don't want to butcher this. I know you sent me the pronunciation, but it is the Guardians of Alistile.
Alice Steele.
Alistile. Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not gonna say this right still. I know I'm not. And it is risen from ash. So
Yes. Pick one.
the Guardians of Alistile, risen from ash.
Yes.
I'm excited. So your next step is editing, correct?
I
Sending it
have
to a
it with
writer? Have it,
I
which
have it
one?
with the editor already. She's looking at it and I should get the first 10 chapters this week, she said, maybe. So, I don't know.
So have now through the editing process, do they, with your particular editor, is she communicating as she goes? Or is it like, I'm gonna read this, edit it, and then I'll get back to you when I'm done with it?
The good thing about her is she says she likes to break it up into like smaller sections because she doesn't want to overwhelm me with just like this whole plethora of chapters. So she'll give me, I think she said she does it like in like 10 chapters, a batch of 10, and then she'll send it to me. I will do my side of the work and send it back to her. And then we just kind of keep going phase through phase. That way we can also talk through like if she makes certain notes on things and I can look at those notes and be like, well, no, this was meant to be foreshadowing. It's not meant to be confusing. And I can explain it to her a little bit. And so like we can have open dialogue and keep that conversation open and make it easier to like make those 10 chapters work before we move on to the next 10 chapters.
Awesome. So without giving away too much detail, tell us a little bit about your book and the characters that are in it, because I know there's one in particular that I stay frustrated with.
Yes. So Guardians of Alistile is an epic fantasy. It has like a tiny romance subplot, but you're not really going to see any romance like in this first book. It really kind of takes off later in book 2 and beyond. And what it is about we follow the lives of 5. They're not kids, they're adults. They're in their like late to mid 20s. And we follow kind of like their journey as like guardians of this city called Riverstorm, where they serve their king to keep their city protected from basically what they assume is evil beyond the southern border. And so they spend their lives with their magic, just pouring their magic into like this magical barrier to keep everything out. And as they, start looking a little bit deeper into what's actually going on around them and how their king treats them, classic like narcissist love bombing, like you're terrible, but also I love you kind of mentality. They start to kind of piece together that things just really aren't as it seems. There's potential that what's beyond the border might not be what they think. There might be actual real live people out there. And you can kind of see that through like our main female character's eyes. Her name is Kiana, and she has visions and she has this link to somebody who is outside the barrier, and he's showing her the world that she was never able to see until then. Um, and so that's going to basically spark the whole book on trying to get away from the city and trying to figure out what is beyond. So when the barrier comes down, she runs, but then the rest of the Guardians kind of follow her, and they'll all be in this like whole adventure of learning that the magic that was in their city is actually out in the rest of the world, and there's not demonic creatures like they thought. And they'll go down farther into the land and discover a whole elvish community full of magic, and then they'll find themselves basically trying to decide, like, do they continue being the king's pawn, or are they going to join the other side and fight against him? So it's really just a journey more about, discovered family, self-discovery, when you've lived in a whole world of lies. There's a lot of political notes in there, just kind of breaking down the different factions of like how politics were run in the Riverstorm city versus how the Elvish community do it. And, there's really just like that gray area of like, are there really any good guys out there in the world, or is everybody kind of just in it for themselves, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah. I find myself when I read certain books that are much more out there, exposed, popular, I guess you could say. We won't mention names, but I find myself when I'm reading those action scenes and stuff, I lose what I'm reading. And that was one thing I loved about your book is I didn't get so lost. Like I stayed in the moment and the world. And so like I cannot tell you how excited I was to get to have you on and talk about this, because I really, really do think that it's something that people will enjoy. I get so easily distracted by things. And so if you can't grab my attention and keep me locked in, I can lose interest really quick. And there wasn't
Yeah.
a time or a point where I was going through where I wasn't losing interest. And it was without romance. There was nothing in it that I say without. There was sparks of,
Yeah.
your main female character. Apparently she's a looker because she's got, these little spots where these guys are like trying, to send out signals. And I think it's fun and it's light, but it is not the main focus of the
Yeah.
story. And I enjoyed that. I, as a younger kid, read those stories that didn't have that kind of thing. And I loved stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes the books now that I've read, it's those intimate scenes that are keeping my attention, not the story. So that's why I loved your book so much, is because it kept my attention without needing that. Um, and the way that you built the worlds throughout the story is absolutely amazing. It's just enough detail without overdoing it. You get some that it drags on and on and on about the explanation of the world and what they're seeing. And there was a particular scene. This is kind of after Kiana found out more information. And
Yeah.
she is watching a scene play out as soldiers are coming back. And I could feel the emotion in that just from reading it. And that was a huge thing for me because I like to feel. I like to feel what the characters are feeling in the moment. And that scene specifically really grabbed me, and I I wanted more, but I knew it wasn't going to last forever. Um, which, it'd be a really sad story if that was the whole scene, or the whole
Yeah.
book. So, um, what would you say throughout have been like your biggest struggles with pulling all of this work out and not necessarily rewriting it, but just developing it and as an adult? And what do you wish like readers knew about the process of that?
Yeah, I mean, pulling the story, I think, was easy because it just stuck with me, so it really wasn't difficult to get it, but you really have to, like, look at it as, like, at the time period when you wrote it versus the time period that you're trying to publish it, right? Because when I
Mhm.
wrote this, like I said, it was a whole different story. There was general themes that sort of stuck with us over like how I wanted it to go and the type of characters. But at the end of the day, you kind of have to look at it and decide, is this the story that people need today? Versus than
Yeah.
when I wrote it. Because I made it like this huge, like I said, it started off horror. I mean, I don't even mind telling the story about it because it's fun. First of all, it's funny. Second of all, it's all been scrapped. I started off like in this like modern day world where like these little teenage kids went through a cemetery gate and then found themselves transformed into a whole different world. And then they were being chased by like witches and a sorcerer, and then they find this whole like other mystical world where like then my main character finds out, oh, she's like this chosen one who was like pushed into the modern world just to be like kept safe. Um and I'll tell you, none of that survived. And as I was looking through, I was like, surely there's something in here that I can use. And I will tell you, the only thing I used was Tristan's character. Like, he is the only one who survived everything. I was like, you know what? At least I got something good out of this. Um,
Well,
and the rest of the manuscript just went away.
wow. So, I mean, in a sense, you really did rewrite the whole thing. I
Yeah.
mean, that's that's awesome. You have a good amount of characters in there. So the fact that Tristan was the only one that survived is really hilarious to me.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
uh,
Conic sort of survived. He was different, like he was named differently.
yeah.
I guess he did survive too. Those two survived, but like who they were and like what they were meant to do changed a little bit. And then after that, all the other characters just changed. And I was like, you know what? Let's make this hard on myself and write like 6 or 7 different point of views in one book because why not?
Yeah, no. Would you say that there was one character throughout that frustrated you with their part in the story?
You know, I think they all frustrated me, honestly. They all, because well, first of all, you have to weed out who they are. And then me as the author, like I know each single one of them. And I kind of go back to this. I know your point of view. Like I know Kiana is like a frustrated one because she comes off as like wishy-washy or kind of finicky or fickle
Mhm.
in the way that she does things in the beginning because she's constantly like questioning, did I do the right thing or should I go back? Is this, now that people have followed her out, like it's like a whole thing of trying to keep the peace and trying to keep people happy, but then also it's like you look back at narcissistic relationships and, you know, it's this whole grasp that people have on you. So she gets kind of frustrating and like different things like that. But for me, I think when writing, my most frustrating, but like also rewarding character is probably Brone. And I say this because he's also like one of my favorites too. And it didn't start off that way. You know, when I built Brone, he was meant to just be like this bully that's kind of like antagonizing Kiana.
Mhm.
And he just became my chaos goblin. Honestly,
Yeah.
he's the one that just kind of like pushed me into like weird places, and he is just chaotic and all over the place. He's my relief, my comic relief character. And then when I kind of saw him morphing into that, I was like, well, dang, now I have to give him this whole arc, and his arc is going to be great, honestly. So that's something. No spoilers or anything, but
No,
he's got a whole thing
he
that's
had
going to come for him.
I definitely can say that I enjoyed a little bit of like you see a character development in him.
Yeah.
Um especially towards like the end of book 1. I think that he is going to be one of those characters that people do enjoy because you get, like you said, kind of in a sense the antagonizer, the bully in the beginning, and he is still that, but he does show growth in the story, and I did enjoy that. But he does bring comedy to it, and
Yeah.
I love banter. So, just the back and forth trying to get under someone's skin kind of thing is something that I really look for in books, because I just think it keeps it interesting and lighthearted and fun. So I think Brone is a great addition to your story.
And who doesn't love a Viking, right?
Oh, that was a nice surprise because you explain and describe the looks of your characters, but because you don't know where the story is going, once it gets to that point, you're like, "Oh, that makes sense,"
Yeah.
and, um, but I definitely can't wait for you to be able to publish this, and I know you're still kinda going through, you're trying to find a cover artist, right? Or
Yep.
have you narrowed it down, or are you still
I have so many emails from different places because I'm just like, I don't know. I have to like just figure something out. And then I had someone on TikTok reach out to me. And so I'm kind of talking to her about it. And so we're just dipping our toes in the water. I am probably letting myself get more stressed out about the cover than I am about anything else. But you know, the cover kind of like people buy your book because of the cover. It's unfortunate, but it's true. So, you know, if I'm gonna aside from the editing, if I'm gonna spend the money on something, it's gotta be that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's I don't have anything lined up yet. I am still just like chaotically sending emails to people.
No. Um, would you say that you have you developed a order of operations, I guess you could say, um, in how you wanna go about doing your publishing process?
Yes, and I developed it in a sense that my wonderful editor sent me 6 pages of to-dos. And I mean, like, it's like it's wonderfully mapped out. I mean, it's like the timing and when you should be doing these phases. So, I'm on the right track, I think, as far as like what I've been doing versus what she says I should be doing. So, you know, obviously step 1 is write the manuscript and get it edited. So like that whole part, like that's being taken care of. Um, and then the next step is the professional design, which is what I'm trying to do now.
Mhm.
Um, because I mean, it says 3 to 4 months before launch, and I'm like 6 months ahead. So, I mean, I'm just impatient. So, I'm still gonna do it now, but it gives me time, like, if that doesn't work out between, like, this very instant, I still have a few months before I have to do it. So, I have a general idea of how, like, I'm gonna go about this. It's just, 6 pages worth of
Yeah.
terrible things that I need to figure out.
I think it's good to share that, especially with people who might not know the steps to take to go through
Yeah,
it, and everybody's gonna be different. Everybody's
yeah,
process is gonna be different. I personally, I have a story, but if it weren't for my friend introducing me to TikTok, I wouldn't even know where to start with the editing and where to publish, what is easier to use when it comes to audio versus physical copy or
mhm,
Kindle, So I think it's a good thing for authors, especially indie authors who are going through the process currently to kind of give those pointers out on what worked for them and what didn't.
yeah.
You did say that you were going to self-publish. You decided on that, or yeah?
Yes, I went back and forth. I mean, it was the one decision that was weighing on me that I could query, or I could self-publish, and what really kinda drove me that way is, number 1, like I said, I'm impatient, and I don't want to like, I fully believe that I could probably send this to an agent and it would be fine. Really, I do, but also, I don't wanna have to wait 1 to 2 years to get this out when I've already been working on it for 15, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like now if I self-publish, I can pick the designs that I want, I know my book better than anybody because I know the characters, I created them. They're like my children that I have to put to bed every night? Um, so I can sell it. I really know exactly which characters need to be likable. I know which characters aren't likable, or maybe they should be likable even though they don't come off as likable. Um,
Yeah.
and I can speak to that more. I can go to bat for my own book. I can put the exact, feel of how the book is supposed to be, like it's an epic fantasy and it has like a lot of there's some darkness to it, but there's also lightness, it's like we've got a whole dead army, like that's kind of creepy, but
Yeah.
then we have like mystical elves and it's like it kind of meets together and you can sell that when you know it really well.
Yes.
And so as I've been just going through it, and then I've dipped my toe into the TikToks. Don't love that, but it's like you start to grow a following, and you're just like, you know what, this really it could be fun if I let it be, and at some point, if I really put in the work, it could be my whole job eventually. If I can do it right, and then so that's
Yeah.
kind of where I'm at. I don't wanna wait for the agencies to do their whole thing and go through all the editing and the publishing and all that stuff. I just wanna get it out. I'm ready.
Yeah. I love your TikToks, first of all. I giggle at them every time I see them because I mean they're genuine and they're real. I feel like it's, your thoughts in the moment of this journey that you're on, and you're
Yeah,
incorporating this social media of aspect of, that it didn't exist back, when we were younger.
yeah,
This was not as I mean, you're younger than I am, but it's still such a new area and space to market yourself and put yourself out there. And I think that with just how fun and easy going and relaxed you are in all of your content, I think it will grow you much faster. And especially once people really do start to get to know you. Sorry, I am an ummer. I am so sorry, by the way. You'll hear
That's
that a
okay.
lot.
If I'm umming too, it's probably happening, I'm sure.
So have you been able to get ARC readers and beta readers to
Yes.
help give
So,
feedback
man,
and
I gotta tell you, beta reading has been interesting. But
yeah,
yes, I have gotten beta readers. You obviously are one, and so that's
yeah,
great. It started off shaky because like I said, I just picked this back up. I was like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna write this thing. And so then after that, it's just like, now what? What do I do to go
yeah.
down this process? And the Googles said beta reading. And I was like, what is that? I don't know what that is. So like I'm going through this whole process like by myself at first, just trying to figure out what to do. And you see on these pages like, oh, you got to pay for beta reading. And people are like, oh, don't pay for beta reading. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm gonna like kind of half it. So like I got a few beta readers, that I was just like, sure, I'll give you some money. But honestly, TikTok has actually helped me a lot on that front, where I did get quite a few beta readers to do it just because they like to do it.
Mhm.
And so I haven't done ARC readers yet because I don't think we're there since we don't have the final manuscript done. It's with the editor. So once we get through that point and I get a cover design, I will put something together and get my ARC readers, but that probably won't come until fall time, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. I know. So I sat there, and as I'm reading, it always pops up, "Do you wanna comment? Do you wanna comment?" And I'm like, I kinda wanna see if she wants to come on my podcast, and I can give my input there more, I feel like, than
Yeah.
because most of the stuff that I really caught onto wasn't something that I felt as a beta reader I needed to do because I felt like that was something that your editor would do.
Yeah.
What are things that you would say you would want your beta readers giving you feedback on? Do you want the just, "Hey, if you find something that maybe it doesn't flow right, or
Yeah.
it feels like I skipped something in the middle of this scene," or, "Hey, this word is misspelled. Just a
Yeah.
heads up."
Yeah. See, that would probably be preferential on the writer. Because I know some writers, they might not go for a full-blown editor, and that's totally okay. Like I get it. Those are expensive. So if they're not, they might need a beta reader to at least help them not edit, because that's a whole job. There's a
Yeah,
reason that editors are getting paid, but if you catch something,
yeah,
most people are not going to hate that. Some might. I never do. I'm just like, you know what? Like, I don't expect you to do that, but if you felt compelled to make that quick little change and it helps me, like by all means. And then yeah, really it's helpful to know, number one, does something not hit well? If I tried
mhm,
to write something, even if it's just like a dialogue, they're just like, yeah, that didn't land for me. Like it wasn't funny, or it wasn't as intimate as you thought it might be. Like it wasn't what you probably had intended it to be.
yeah,
That's really helpful. Obviously catching plot holes. Like if you catch something, you ask a question, even just asking questions because you're just trying to figure it out as you go. Because there are times where like us as writers are dropping breadcrumbs, and like it's helpful to know that you're asking the right questions and it's kind of making you want to keep going, versus
mhm,
are you asking questions and even you as the writer don't have the answer, and so you're like, well, yeah, now that caught something because now I have to go back and figure out, like, we got to answer that. It's like, do we have to answer it or do we not have to answer it? So knowing what your questions are, like, as you're going, is really helpful, especially at those earlier stages. Because I would say there's probably stages of beta readers. Obviously you have your alpha readers too, who will like just take your raw manuscript and they'll know that it's
mhm,
just like, it's probably like hot dumpster trash, which is fine. And they can like help you really shape it, but then you kind of go through different stages. I went through 3 stages of betas. My first stages of betas like got me to the manuscript that took care of a lot of different things that might be confusing, or really didn't land. And then my second stage of betas got me to the point where it's like more of confidence, honestly. It's like, oh, okay, like this is kind of where you start getting the vibe check. Like, is it working? And then the third stage of betas, which is probably where I'm at right now, while I'm with my editor, because like I just want to know, like, while I'm doing the editing, is there just any like last minute things, or is it really just ready story wise,
Yeah.
aside from editing? That's kind of how I did it when it came to beta readers. So it's a preferential thing for most people on how they want to do it. And we just have to know, like, when we're communicating it, it's like, you're getting
Mhm.
my draft at this point, and this is what I need to know. Versus, hey, this is like my final. I just need to know if it vibes.
Yeah. So I have not done any beta reading for anyone like this, but I have seen where authors will, they have like a whole Discord set up
Yeah.
to communicate through, or they have a list of things that they want from their betas or their alphas, and especially from the ARC readers, one that comes into play. But I think each person is going to have their own routine and requirements that they set up for themselves, because you're going to have some that they don't want as much of an input. They just want to know if it's good. And then you're going to
Yeah.
have those people that are, they want you to go in and critique the book in every aspect that they can.
Yeah.
So, um, I personally, if something doesn't hit, tell me. Like,
Yeah.
do I suck? Is it horrible? Like, is this completely a waste of my time?
Yeah.
Tell me now, so I don't, you know, waste anybody else's time either. Would you say that you've gotten some positive feedback through using your betas?
Yeah, I will say, like, for sure. I mean, it started off pretty roughy. Like I said, I had like my first round of betas, and it was very rare that I heard like the good things. Like, they didn't like tear it down, but all of my comments were just like them asking the questions or not understanding something. Um,
Mhm.
and honestly, those are probably like the two best rounds that I had been through because I could get it where it is now. And then after that, I think once I put it in the hand of the next round of betas, it just, I mean, I have a little fan group now, which is kind of nice from my betas.
Yeah. No, I I am glad to watch your journey. I'm glad that you allowed me to be a beta reader. I promise I will give you feedback now that I've made it through. Bringing authors on here, I want to make sure that I have read and understand what they're coming
Yeah.
to me with. I don't want to go into it blindly, or not seem genuine in what I don't want it to look like I just read the blurb on the back of a book,
Yeah.
basically. So I really enjoyed getting to go through and dive into the story and kind of see it develop as it goes, and I can't wait. So, do you want to share kind of the future that you see of the book, and where you like, how far do you plan on taking this specific storyline?
Yeah. So this is a 4-book series as far as like this specific storyline. And I say 4 very cautiously because honestly, it was meant to be 3. And one of my betas called me out and said, hey, split it right here and make this part better. So I'm like working on like book 2 now because of that. Um, so now it's 4. I'm hoping she doesn't come back and tell me to split it again and it becomes 5 or 6. That would be I'm gonna tell her no. But so that's the plan for this specific storyline. And then I do have a plan on also at least writing one spinoff to go back and write some of the backstory of how the world kind of came to be as it was now through the eyes of my very malicious king. Because who doesn't love a villain's story? So 5
Yes.
books total with the spinoff. And then we'll see from there. I know I'm kind of on the fence because I know some authors like to just write their story and be done with it, and some love to just take it and go and go. And I could go with so many different things. Like I have a lot of characters and I have a lot of things that get set up for the future, or just like different storylines that could be taken. It's the whole world, you know. There's a lot that goes into that. So I'm sticking with the 5 for now. We'll see. Worst cases, we set it aside after that. And then, I mean, like I said, I've been writing since I was 12, so I have binders of other books that I have written that have never seen the light
Yeah.
of day. So, I've already been thinking about those and how I could, because they used to be, I think, more like romance or just like modern day life kind of books.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking, because I really like the fantasy, and that's probably where my niche is going to stay. I've been
Mhm.
thinking how I can turn those into fantasy worlds and like make
Yeah.
them more fun and magical. So stories there, they'll probably get trashed as true manuscripts, but you know, I will pull things from them and be like, yep, that's where this is gonna go. So we'll see.
I am, like, blown away at the fact that you held on to all of those stories for this long.
They're near to my
Uh,
heart.
I remember writing stories all the time growing up, but I don't feel like I think I would have to really dig to find any of the ones that we actually made into a book.
Yeah.
Um, so more power to you for keeping hold of those and actually, putting them to use later on. I think that's good, and I my kids love to write stories, and so over time, we have kept my oldest is she'll be 17, and we used to put, like, a bunch of paper together and staple
Yeah.
it, and she would write a story in it and draw her artwork and everything, so I think it's fun to do that with your kids, and I think you and your like, I don't know if you specifically kept them or if, like, your parents held on to them for you or how that
It
went
was
about,
me.
but
Yeah.
yeah, you just kept them in a box, huh?
Kept them in
Kinda
a
like
box. They go with me everywhere.
yeah. That's awesome, though. So, let's see. I you have you I know we mentioned like, we talked about you're going to be self-publishing.
Yeah.
Do you know what outlet, like, you're going through with that, or are you still kind of testing the waters and seeing, like, what's out there?
Yeah, I don't know at all. I mean, I know that they've got like Amazon, and KU and then Ingram Sparks. So those are probably going to be the big ones that I like go through. I truly honestly thought that that was it. So,
Yeah. No, I I am trying to just in the community on TikTok, trying to get resources for indie authors so they can kind of have a better outlet of where to go and find different people, whether it be editors or places that they can publish through that aren't outrageous in cost and expense because it does get expensive with publishing, especially if you're doing physical copies that people buy. And there's questions I feel like indie authors are going to have. Do I have to have a physical copy before I can do something like Kindle Unlimited where it's virtual, it's all
yeah,
online. So I know there's a couple different places that I haven't really tapped into yet. And I plan to try and get some of the people that I am, in contact with on here. So that way it gives another place where indie authors can go and find those extra resources and kind of hear from those people in a longer span of time than just like short little quick TikToks, because not everybody uses TikTok either. I still know a lot of people that try and stay as far away from TikTok as possible, and I feel like the indie author community on that alone is so huge. I can't even imagine like how big it is outside of just TikTok. So we know we can find you on TikTok, and if you want to tell them what your handle is for that.
Yes. So TikTok is at Samantha Vargas 2014, I believe. I will have to double check. I'm 99% sure that that's it, but my Instagram was different and it surprised me. So, but if you want to also follow me on Instagram, I do not do much on Instagram yet, but
Yes,
I was just that I need to. So I will be building out boards for that. Because apparently Instagram is not as loving as my funny little reels. So I gotta build the vibe. So if you want to follow along there, my handle for that is at Sam Vargas 2014. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I keep my name. You never know who I'm gonna use. It's like a multi-personality, Sam or Samantha. You never know.
What do they call those? The people that use like a different name in general.
Oh, like the pen name.
Yeah. I have sat and I've tried to create and think of something like that, and I don't know. Names are difficult for me.
Yeah.
How did you did you go and look up baby names for like a list of baby names to create your characters' names? I am completely lost in that, and
That's a
I've
good
tried to narrow
question.
it down to like specifics, like, okay, I love Irish names. Let's see
Yeah.
what they have for Irish names.
Yeah.
What it was your
Some of
way of
them
going
just
about.
came to me, which is surprising because names are hard. You'll also notice that I barely use last names in my book. So like I was like, one name is good. Everybody gets one name. Some of them get last names, but yeah, no, some of them came to me and it took years to get the right name. So you just I sat on it for a while, but I was pretty impressed that I got there. I got like Baila is one of mine, and that one is funny because Baila means dance in Spanish, which she's like not the dancing type of character,
Okay.
which is kind of funny. But I just liked the words. I was like, you know what? It's a different language, but I'm gonna give her that name. And then some of them, yeah, I did have to just go on to like the internet and scour it, and then sometimes you find names like if you're looking at the back of like an ingredients page and you just pick a word, you like flip some of
Okay.
the you flip
Letters
some of
around?
the thing,
Yeah.
yep, flip some of the letters and you get some weird concoction. But for the most part with my book, I really like simple fantasy. Just because I am that same way. Like you're gonna lose me if you try to build the world way too fast. So I kept it simple. I kept my name simple. I did not go through a whole process of like I've got to make these names super unique and crazy. It's like no, you're gonna be able to pronounce most of them right off the back. I mean, I was not original when I was just like my city's name is Riverstorm because it's
But
easier to digest even as an adult. Like I feel like the names kind of throw you out of it a little bit when it's too much. So
I think that takes a lot of the attention away from the story when people are constantly trying to figure out how am I supposed to pronounce that.
yeah.
And it's even worse whenever the author doesn't even really know how to pronounce it, and I would never want to set myself up for that failure. So, I'm like, I've gotta have names that I can pronounce, or it's gonna be so bad when it comes time to actually speak those names out loud to
Yeah.
other people.
Yeah.
I can butcher them all day long if I'm in the quiet of my own space, but once you're out in the open and people can see you and hear you say them, it's definitely very
Yeah.
different. So,
Yeah. Well, when I'm
um
in the wild also, my, southern accent starts to take over. So, I also don't wanna pronounce words with a southern accent where I'm just like, "Whoo, that did not sound the way it's
Yeah.
supposed to in my head."
I mean, I could only imagine hearing some of the names, like, just, like, thinking of them off the top of my head in a Southern accent. It would it would totally change, like, the whole just vibe of the story, I
Yep,
feel like.
yep.
So,
No.
if you ever have a narrator or voice reader, stay away from Southern. Anyone with a
It's
Southern
really funny you
accent.
say that because my brother told me that the only way he would listen to it on audio is if it was like one of those really thick Southern accents. I'm just like, you can't do that to my story. It's terrible.
Oh, man, like, I cannot imagine, like, a magical country bumpkin kind of, like sorry if that but I mean, it's just like or that sweet Southern belle. I can't
There
nope,
are no
I just
Southern bells in my story.
no, it
Just me.
really it changes the whole, like yeah, no. We
Mm.
need I I don't even know, like, would you just go with someone more elegant, or do you think that your characters have accents? Like, are there any of them that sound like, they really are from another world? I know that there is a specific character that Kiana comes, in contact with that you kind of explain her their voice a little bit. So, um, I can kind of
Mhm.
imagine her and what she's going to sound like, but would you say that there's others that might have a different tone to than what we would
Yeah.
expect?
Yeah. Well, Brown will because he's more gruff. I mean, he's got like that deeper, like Viking type voice. He doesn't have the Viking accent, obviously, because he grew up his whole life in Riverstorm. So, like, their accents aren't really what it would be. But if you go outside of the world of Riverstorm, there's going to
Mhm,
be a different way of speaking. The Viking clan in general, which you're not going to see them in book one, but you will in book two, and they are going to have like that drawl to their accents, and they're going to speak a specific way. So I mean that's a book two problem, not a book one problem. But when I do find narrators, I do find it I like the British accents a little bit. So that's probably where I'm
yeah,
going to like, lean
probably
towards. Just because of like the time period that I like selected to use for this, it's definitely not a modern day type thing, think Renaissance, or Dark Ages.
yeah,
So when you think of those time periods, you think of like European. So that's probably what I'm going to be looking for when I do narrators. But other than that, I don't have like very distinct voices aside from the one that you mentioned, which is
yeah,
going to be interesting to find on how to do that. It's
yeah.
probably gonna have to be like a mashup.
Yeah, I mean, you could do a mashup, or I'm sure, like, if you end up with narrators, I think a lot of them can also kind of do some of the, voice adjustments with some of the technology they have nowadays, if you really wanted to get into
Sure.
it that far. I think sometimes the narrators kind of stay with the same voice, but the tone changes a little bit in
Yeah.
like from character to character. And then like they have their regular, just this is my narrator voice through the entire book telling the story, but when people
Yep.
speak, that's when the sounds come out. So
I don't know what happened, but I'm still here. So I'm gonna message her. I don't know if y'all can still see me, but I'm here. Hopefully she'll come back. I agree. I'm gonna look at the chat. Oh, she's coming back. There we
I
go.
I clicked something and I went away. I do not know what happened.
I was
I
like,
was
uh-oh, it's a one-man show. I'm gonna have to entertain everyone.
Hey, thanks for being the guinea pig for this streaming service because I don't have any idea what I did. I was grabbing my mouse to click on something and it started to go away. And then I was trying to get back in as fast as I could, and it was not
Yeah,
cooperating.
that's
So,
okay. I sat there for like probably 10 seconds and I'm just like, all right, what am I gonna do now? Either I leave or I sit here and I try to talk to the people. We started there. I was about to go through the comments, but yes, but you came back. So I'm like, woo!
yeah, I am here. I'll edit that part out. No. I'm like, we'll pretend that never happened.
That's right. That's right. That's the point of
Oh,
technology.
I know. I've been trying to go back and look at comments so that way you can interact with them. And so I'm going to look at some of those now and see if anyone has any questions or anything that maybe they want to add. Bonus content.
Yeah.
So,
I would have danced for them if I had to.
it's I feel like a lot of the times it's so hard to keep up with the comments anyways. When we do lives on TikTok, um, it's really just us hanging out, answering
Yeah.
questions when they pop up, but those things scroll so fast. I have to like continuously go back up and reread
Yeah.
questions so we don't lose them. But I think it's
That's
fun to interact. So let's see if there's any questions here for you. A lot of positive things all about you, Sam. They love you.
this is my little fan club. We're all in a Discord together, so they know everything about my whole process. They get to hear
No,
it.
I love it. It's good to see what your circle is saying and that they're supporting you and that they're just as excited to be able to see it all come to
Yeah.
fruition. It's a journey that I hope goes so far for you because, like I said, I really have loved reading your first book, and I can't wait to be able to physically share like the published work with
Yeah.
others. Um, I get people that ask me what I'm reading whenever I tell them I've got a book that I'm reading that's a beta read, and I'm like, "Can I should I, like, message her and see if she can send it out? But what if she doesn't want anymore?" So I'm just like, I don't wanna overwhelm authors with a
Yeah.
ton of different ones, but I do have a good handful of people that are in that world, whether it be, people who have written books on their own, edited, they do editing. I know you don't need an editor, but sometimes just for fun, they like to beta read.
Yeah.
And then, like, my best friend is the one who really introduced me to the indie world because we both happen to be writing. She is much further in the process than I am. And we just kind of joked. Well, I say I was helping her create a book box at her house one day, and we were just rolling out ideas of how could we help her to expand because she's created a website where indie authors can go and they can post their books and the links and whatnot to be able to find those indie authors books. And then on top of that, it's, you know, it's not just for the indie authors, it's for the readers to be able to go to and find new authors that maybe they didn't know about and stuff. So um I wanted to be able to help her with that.
Yeah.
I if I could tell everybody about all the great things that I get to see or hear about, I will. It's
Yeah.
just, I love supporting and kind of just getting people recognized as much as I can. So,
Yeah.
well, I think that is all for this. I don't have any more questions. Do you have anything else that you want to add?
Um, yeah, well, we are pushing for a December publish date. So, that's probably the closest timeline I can get once getting through all of this. Um, I will say I am actually 7 chapters away from finishing book 2. So that will be on the market for beta reading probably soon. The tough part about that one is if you haven't read book 1, it's not a standalone. Like this whole series is not going to be a standalone. Like you have to read it. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
navigate how to go about finding betas. Like some betas will want to read, like they'll want to go into reading, but some don't feel like they want to, and that's totally okay. I'm never gonna pressure anybody to try to keep reading with me, but so that's kind of like what's on the market for me right now, and so just navigating how to keep beta readers for the whole series.
Okay. Do you um are you taking more beta readers for your current work in progress, or are you kind of done in that process now that it's in the hands of your editor and
Yeah, I mean, I think I would take them in the sense of like I don't really need the feedback more so than I really just need them to understand what happens to move into book 2.
okay.
Yeah. Because now that I'm with the editor, I think like it's going to be a little hard. Like if they give feedback and it just kind of all conflicts.
Mhm.
I'm trying to keep it condensed now to let the editor do it. And then if there's like some
Yeah.
things that make sense from like past feedback, then it's a little bit easier.
Well, awesome. I am so glad that you came and joined me on here. I know this has been, you know, I'm all for chaos, but it has definitely been a process figuring everything out and seeing how everything works on this streaming.
Yeah.
But I have had fun, and I look forward to whenever you finally get to put your book out there and
Yeah.
share it with the world because I think it's going to be great. I think it's going to hit with a lot of people that really enjoy fantasy. Um, and even some of the people that I think look for that romance, it has, even just in this first book, it has just enough that it's I don't want to use the word cutesy, but it's like it's a soft love or
Yeah.
romance in the beginning, and I like that the first book, did not focus on that in the story. I think
Yeah.
it's been fun to see the focus stay on just the main character and kind of her personality and all of the side pieces that go along with that, and just kind of watching her journey unravel. So,
Yeah.
um, I hope that once you are officially published, maybe we can get you back on, and maybe I'll have all of this figured out way better. So that way it'll go smoother. This wasn't horrible. I won't say it was horrible. It, you know, I don't know how many people leave their own live randomly, but it's also been interesting because this is also my first episode I have done where I tried to stay away from my script because I get so off topic that
Yeah.
I don't want to forget things and, ramble on about nothing. So, um, it's been fun for me.
Yeah.
Um,
I enjoyed it. Even when you left, I was just like, "You know what? We're gonna figure this out. I'll dance
you could do
or I'll sing them a song. I don't know, but I was gonna wing it."
it. I mean, I will take any kind of entertainment, especially if you can just go with the flow, like on the spot. This is your moment to shine, right?
That's right.
So
That's right. That's what it was. It was just like, "All right, she's testing me. She's testing me for when I have to do this for myself, so it's okay."
I that is exactly what I was doing. I was
I
testing
thought
you
so.
for you going on your first live on your own
That's right.
one day with
That's
no
right.
additional person, just you, all you. It
I'm
is
ready for it.
it's fun, but it's definitely a moment of awkwardness, for me because I'm
Yeah.
just awkward. Like, if people could just not see me and I could do it because I make
Yeah.
faces, I look around like crazy. So, um, thank you for bringing us along on this journey. I think that people are really gonna enjoy this, and I cannot wait again. Like I said, I cannot wait for this to be out and published so I can share it with my friends and my family who also really love fantasy stories. I think it's amazing that you have restarted this journey and are going through with it. I hope that it is not too stressful for you
Yeah.
um, in the process. And if you have questions or anything, do not hesitate to reach out. You know, sometimes you might find a source and it might not work out and you're on to the next
Yeah.
one. So I am more than happy to help in any way that I can to put you in contact with people that might be able to help you um,
Yeah.
in whatever,
Definitely.
process you're at. So,
Yeah.
but thank you again for joining. Thank you for being my
Yeah.
first live. It was great.
Thank
I'm
you.
so grateful. You have a
Yeah.
good
No,
day.
I'm grateful for you. Thank you.
Yes. You have a good day.
You
We'll see you
too.
later.
Thank you.
Bye,
See
everybody.
ya.
All right. I said stream.